How did a doctor, one with a glass eye, manage to predict one of the biggest financial crises in history before anyone else? Michael Burry was a doctor who hadn't studied economics and had no experience on Wall Street, but with a sharp, analytical mind and a crazy decision, he saw a market that everyone else thought would grow forever. People called him delusional or a mad genius. But just a few years later, that same mad genius, right as everyone was losing their homes and their life savings, made a $700 million profit. The story was so strange and so huge that it was later adapted into the movie The Big Short, starring Christian Bale as Burry. But before he became an investment icon, he had a strange life. A childhood filled with illness, loneliness, and a mental prowess unlike anyone else's. Michael Burry was born in 1971 in San Jose, California, but from the very beginning, his life was anything but ordinary. He was only 2 years old when he was diagnosed with a rare form of eye cancer. He lost his left eye and had to wear a glass eye for the rest of his life. While other kids his age were out playing, he was busy studying stock prices in financial magazines. He later said he likely had Asperger's syndrome as a child. It's an autism spectrum disorder that causes an unusually intense focus on a specific subject. And for Burry, that subject was always the same: the numerical analysis of the market and understanding financial structures. With his unique mind, Burry went to UCLA. He became a doctor, but his mind was never far from the world of markets and investing. Every night after his shift at the hospital, he'd spend hours analyzing charts and market data. He was a doctor by trade, but in reality, he was a market analyst who only cared about numbers and facts. But one night, while analyzing a particular stock, he stumbled upon something that would change the course of his life forever. He blogged at night, and his sharp, unconventional analyses started attracting a lot of attention. Investors from all over the world started messaging him. People who had no idea these profound market analyses were coming from a doctor, not a professional Wall Street trader. In the year 2000, he left medicine for good and entered the professional world of investing. With his own money and funds from a few other investors, he launched a hedge fund called Scion Capital. In its very first year, the market was in bad shape and many people were losing money. But not only did Burry not lose money, he managed to turn a huge profit. The reason was clear. Burry didn't listen to what anyone else was saying. Not the media, not the famous analysts, and not the people who just followed the market hype. He trusted only one thing: data and numbers. But within these data-driven analyses, Burry found something disturbing. Something that everyone else either couldn't see or didn't want to see: the US mortgage market. Banks were giving loans to just about anyone. They weren't checking credit scores or asking for real collateral. These loans were then bundled together and sold as securities. Securities that the entire global financial system had come to depend on. He reviewed the charts and reports with even greater obsession, and he saw that all the signs were screaming the same thing: a massive financial crisis was on the way. Now it was time for a big decision. A decision that, if it turned out to be right, could change everything. But if he was wrong, he would be ruined and lose all his capital. Many people didn't see this clear warning, but he finally made his decision and entered into the riskiest trade in history. A trade the world would later call the smartest deal before the 2008 financial crisis. He turned to a strange financial instrument called a CDS. To put it simply, a CDS is like a bet against mortgage-backed securities. This meant that if the housing market collapsed, Burry would make a huge profit. At first, the banks were surprised. But since they believed the housing market was completely safe and always growing, they agreed to the contracts with Burry. He spent millions of dollars to insure himself and his fund against a collapse in the housing market. On the surface, everything seemed to be against him. House prices were rising every day. Analysts were more optimistic than ever, and investors began to apply pressure and protest, saying he was wasting their money. Some even threatened to sue him. Months went by and prices were still high, but slowly, cracks began to appear in the financial system. Loans began to default one by one, and the securities that once seemed safe and flawless began to freefall. In 2008, everything collapsed. The securities that the global economy was built on brought the world to the brink of collapse. But for Burry, this was the exact moment that proved he was right. The result of this bet was $700 million in profit for his investors and about $100 million in personal profit for himself. This was at the very time when many people were losing their entire life savings. But after this incredible victory, Michael Burry vanished from the world of finance and the media. After that strange crisis, he didn't seek fame, didn't agree to interviews, didn't hold press conferences, and didn't start a podcast. The only thing he did was close his fund and go home. For a while, no one heard from him, but after a long period of silence, he returned. This time with a new company called Scion Asset Management. Michael Burry is still the same man, a meticulous analyst, indifferent to the hype and always going against the prevailing market sentiment. Today, Burry invests in unique and different things like water, farmland, gold, and even shares in lesser-known companies. Sometimes he believes the entire market is one big bubble. But after all these years, one thing has never changed. His famous belief that when everyone is optimistic, it's time to be more skeptical than ever. Burry showed us that the market doesn't always follow the collective wisdom. Sometimes it just takes one person with the courage to say, I disagree with everyone, because the numbers say something else. Now, if you were in Michael Burry's shoes and had this knowledge and precise information, would you have had the courage to stand up to everyone and move against the market's direction? Have you ever been in a situation where everyone said you were making a mistake, but in the end you realized you were completely right?